Hello, good evening, everyone. I hope you all are fine. Very soon we are going to start with our class. Yes, so we are going to start with the today's class. Yes. So let us start our class. So today's class is the control and coordination. So as you all know, aware that the control and coordination in our body has to be done on a daily basis, and it is mostly maintained by the hemostasis. But one of the organ which is more sensitive and very delicate but more powerful than the other organ or organ system, that is the brain. As you can see here, this is the brain. I hope this is visible. See how the structure of the brain, how does the brain look like? Yes. So this is how it's look like. So let us understand how this control and coordination actually happens in our body and what is the main reason for this. This refers to the help any living organisms to respond to any kind of stimulus or regulate the internal environment of our body. So in animals, mostly the nervous system, which plays an important role along with the endocrine. They both coordinate nervous system and endocrine system, help in coordination and controlling the body and passing the messages wherever the target site is, right? So they work in a system, they work together in order to achieve this. So the nervous system uses the nerve impulses or the electrical impulses to transmit the message through signals, which is very quick and fast. While the endocrine systems are nothing but the hormones, right? They are hormones which are mostly help in the which help in the understanding the need of the body. And in plants, whereas in plants, coordination is mainly achieved through the chemical signals, such as nothing but the hormones. So the control involves the ability to regulate and restrain the process, and starting and speeding and reaching, slowing, and all these are work together for any organism to produce a suitable response to any stimulus. So for that we have, in animals there are mostly divided into three parts, that is the nervous system, endocrine system, and the reflex arts, which we are going to cover in this part 1. In the part 2 we are going to talk about the endocrine system, how the coordination in our body takes place, isn't it? Next, now how these electrical impulses are passed. As you can see here, these are the parts of the brain. So before we move to the each parts, let us understand these nervous system composed of three parts. One is the brain, second is the spinal cord, and the nerves, which are connected throughout our body in order to send the signals, right? So these nerve impulses through which the message is passed, the neurons or the synapses which connect the one neuron to the another. And the chemical messengers, the endocrine uses the hormones in order to receive and regulate the various body functions, right? So these include growth hormones, which help in the growth development of the body, and metabolism, digestion, nutrition, and all the reproduction processes being carried out. Hormones are usually produced by the endocrine and travel through the bloodstream. So now in this part 1 we are going to talk completely about the brain and the parts of the brain and its functions. Right, next. So as you can see here, how the as you can see in the screen, how the stimulus, for example, a water receptor and a sensory neuron which sends the information and pass it to the brain, and the brain retain and process and transfer it into the electrical impulses through the neuron, and the motor neuron which carries the impulses to the effector or to the muscles or to the targeted side, and then we respond according to that. So as this name, as the image indicates, in example, if you need to respond or any reaction is needed, that message is being taken from the receptors, pass through the sensory neurons, processed in the brain, and then again reflect and again pass to our body with the help of a motor neuron and the effector, which will absorb those stimulus and response according to that. Okay, so the nervous system mainly composed of two parts, that is the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system covers the full brain and the spinal cord. It covers the full brain and the spinal cord, whereas peripheral nervous system controls the lower portion of our body, such as hands, legs, and from here to till the toe, all will be covered in the peripheral nervous system. The first one is the automatic nervous system, and the second one is the stomatic nervous system. So now we are going to discuss about the central nervous system, that is which consists of the brain and the spinal cord. Now, as you can see here, a transverse section of the brain, you can see there are many parts here. I hope this is visible. And you can see the brain is divided into mainly the three parts. The first one is the forebrain, midbrain, and the hindbrain. The forebrain, which is divided into cerebrum, thalamus or the thymus, and hypothalamus, or we also call them as the olfactory lobe, and the diencephalon, which is consist of the thalamus and the hypothalamus. Now this is the next part, is the midbrain, which connects the cerebellum of the hindbrain and the corpus of the midbrain. And the third one is the hindbrain, which consists of mostly the brain stem, that is pons veruli, medulla oblongata, cerebellum, and the spinal cord. And the spinal cord, which is being connected here, as you can see here. Right. So now each one we are going to take in a detailed section. Right. So now, as you can see in the screen, the first in the screen here is the brain structure. Now you see here the anatomy of the brain. So as we were discussing about the three parts of the brain, first one is the cerebrum, which is the largest and the longest part. So before that, we need to know, why do we need to understand about the working process? What is the main general characteristics of the brain? The first one is the brain consists of around 1.4 kilogram. A normal adult brain consists of a weight around 1.4 kilogram. And these are mainly about made up of around 100 millions of the 100 billions of the neuron, mostly the neurons type of cells, the longest type of cells which are there in our body. And the speciality of this brain is the, because it's the most delicate and the most powerful organ of our body, but it responds to stimuli, and it produce and process the information, and it pass the information through electric impulse to the other parts of the body. These are all the general characteristics of the brain. As you can see that it's one of the most delicate part. It has to be protected with a strong a strong bone. It is protected with a strong bone called as the skull, which is known as the cranium. A bony covering called as the cranium. These cranium are immovable joints There are joint but which cannot be moved. These are fixed in one place. That's why we call them as immovable joints. They are fixed in one position. Once covering the outer portion of the brain, you can see there is the outermost layer covering these part called as the meninges. It is made up of a gray matter and the white matter. Outer layer is the gray matter and the inner is the white matter. Now, out of this meninges, there are three layers which protect the brain from any kind of mechanical shocks. Any kind of mechanical shock. Now these made up of three layers. The layer which is in this made it is, the first one is the pyometer, arachnoid, and the dura mater. All these three layers are covering to the outer portion of the brain, which protects the brain from any kind of mechanical shock. It absorbs, and so that it should not harm, or brain should not get jerk, right? So that is what it is being made up of. Next, now we have a cerebrum, which is the largest part of the brain. It is a central nerve organ of our nervous system, made up of three, mostly composed of the cerebrum, cerebellum, and the brainstem here. Okay, so each one we are going to go through. Each we will go through with in detail. Okay, the first one, as I was discussing here, the brain is a outer covering which consists of three layers: dura mater, arachnoid, and the pia mater. And it is mostly the whitish outer, and inner layer consists of the gray matter, which is in gray color. Excuse me. Now, so this part, the portion which has a folding like hemisphere or the grooves, is called the cerebellum, which is the largest part of the brain, which is mostly responsible for our intelligence, our memory, thinking, our visual, our talking, facial expression, smell, and all the voluntary action which is taken place in our body are being taken care by the cerebrum. Now, this cerebrum is divided into different lobes. You can see here different lobes. These lobes are made up of a special made up of special type of a sensory and processing called as the corpus callosum. They are made up of a band of nerve tissues which are nothing but the fibers called as corpus callosum. The surface of the cerebellum has many foldings. As you can see here, there are many foldings. See these foldings. These foldings are responsible for, yeah, these foldings are responsible for the gyri and sulci, which are divided into each hemisphere. This part and the other part, which is divided into the hemisphere. The two parts into two hemisphere. Now, as you can see, this is how when you cut into the vertical section, you can see there are two hemisphere, one and two. Okay. Yes. Now, these regions, such as if I take this, they are made up of occipital lobe, which is responsible for the visual perception. Okay. Now, these are required for the seeing ability, the portion which is responsible for the visual, and temporal lobe, which is a auditory, and the parietal and frontal lobe, which is in the right in front, is for the mostly for the facial and muscular activity and the mental activity. Now, olfactory lobes appear in the area of a sense of smell, mostly responsible for the sense of smell. Next is diencephalon, which is the smallest part of the forebrain and lies between the cerebrum and the midbrain. Between this and this portion, you can see diencephalon. Diencephalon is mostly the regulation of all the senses except the smell, and they are divided in, and it responds to the reflex activities such as the touching of a hot object, response to any smell, or response to any kind of stimulus or the external factors. These consist of the thalamus and hypothalamus, which are mostly regulated by the endocrine system and the nervous system. These glands control water balance, metabolism level, and all the involuntary actions such as blood pressure, respiratory system, and sleep, hunger, and eating, hunger, etc. All these are being maintained by the hypothalamus and the thalamus. Below that is the midbrain. Now, this midbrain is the smallest and the dark part of the brain that connects the brain of cerebellum with the hindbrain. This will help to connect both. Now, in brain, it is divided into three parts. That is the hindbrain, which is this portion. First one is the cerebellum. Second is the pons variculi, medulla oblongata, and then the extending is the spinal cord. This mostly regulated by the this thing. Cerebellum is located under the this cerebellum above the medulla oblongata, an important role in all the regulation on body control, body posture, body balancing, and it coordinate mainly with the posture or the body system, the position of the body, and all the voluntary muscular such as physical activity, walking, all the physical changes will be taken care by the cerebellum, and it controls the our motor neuron. Next, medulla oblongata, mostly this portion, which is a connection between the brain stem and the spinal cord. Brain stem and the spinal cord, it has multiple reflection center. It has multiple reflection center, right? It has multiple reflection center. These multiple reflection center controls the breathing, such as respiratory, cardiovascular, heartbeat, blood pressure. All these are being controlled by our full brain. Now you'll be surprised to know that these the connection between the brain stem or medulla oblongata is the spinal cord, through which all the body responses to any reflex action and all the messages is being passed. So spinal cord becomes the center or the coordinating center between the brain and the our other parts of our body. As you can see here, the reflex act, how we respond towards the stimulus. Now, this stimulus, in order to understand the stimulus, we should know the basic structure of the neuron cell, which I think you are already aware. It consists of a cell body, which is mostly the nucleus, the cytoplasm, the dendrites, and the axon. And then the nerve ending, which connects the other adjacent neuron in order to pass the information. So dendrites are connected to the nerve ending of the adjacent neuron or the next neuron. So they help in processing information, pass through the axon, and from the nerve ending, the message is being sent. Now, this is called as the feedback response or the response towards the heat. Like, for example, another example for the feedback mechanism is when we respond to any heat, our organs, especially the skin, act as a receptor which absorb and sense the nerve. There is sensation of pain sensation will be sent it to the spinal cord. If required, the spinal cord passes the message through the motor neuron to the muscles, and immediately we respond by withdrawal or the taking of our hand from the heat. This feedback mechanism help our body to coordinate based on the emergency situation. Then, for example, now take an example. Whenever a sugar level in our body is detected high, based on the normal, what happens? The alpha cells of pancreas, the beta, there are three types of cells we have studied in pancreas: alpha, beta, and the delta. The alpha cells, which cells detect that there is an increase of insulin, and due to that the sugar level in the blood has been increases. This help in synthesizing more amount of insulin so that the sugar level can come down. In that case, the insulin level as a hormone which is released by the pancreas act as a center which will control the level of sugar. This insulin will go and eat all the sugar, excess of sugar level or excess of glucose level, in order to bring down the sugar level into a normal state. So the sugar level falls down, stop secreting more insulin, and this will be a signal will be given by the alpha cells. So this will help us in the more in managing our body day to day work or the processing. So that's why the brain and the muscles, spinal cord is connected with the millions or billions of nerve cell. And nerve cell are of three types. One is the motor neuron, which nerve which help in transporting the information from the brain to the other parts of the body. Another sensory neuron is the one which which senses the message which is sent by the brain or by the other parts of the body. Another type of neuron is there, that is called as the intermediate neuron or the relay neuron, which help in processing and connecting the other two neurons. I hope this was really helpful. And anybody need question related to the control and coordination, you can you can drop your any doubt so that I can repeat the particular topic. So once again, to recapitulate in a simple words, just a brain is the most sensitive and the powerful organ of our body, because the whole body controlled by our brain. So you have to take care of your brain very importantly. So avoid negative thinking, always feed the positive so that your body also receive the positivity, right? And in order to understand the anatomy of the brain, so the brain is covered with a bony case called as the cranium. And cranium is it's a bony case which protect the brain from any kind of injury. Second, the brain is covered with a layer of meninges, which is made up of three layers: dura mater, arachnoid, and a pia mater. These three layers, which come composed with the meninges, which protect the brain from any kind of mechanical shock or electrical shock, and protect the brain from such shocks or jerks. And once you open the brain is divided into three parts. The first one is the forebrain, which consists of cerebrum, olfactory lobe, and the diencephalon. Second one is the midbrain, which connects the cerebellum of the hindbrain and the cerebrum of the forebrain, and mostly control all the auditory responses will be controlled. And the second one is this cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, which is divided into hemisphere, which is which consists of a nerve fiber called as corpus callosum, which is mainly divided into two hemisphere. And each lobes, you can see here the lobes, each lobes, these are responsible for a particular function. First one is the occipital, which is a region required for the visual. We will be able to see, which connected to the eyes. Second is the temporal lobe, which is mostly towards the this portion, which is responsible for the auditory. And the third one is the parietal lobe, which is usually required for the senses of touch, smell, and body temperature, and all the consciousness activities which is being controlled by that. And the frontal lobe, which is present right in here, right in the front position, which is called as the frontal lobe, which is mostly responsible for the the mental activities such as speed, speech, facial expression, and the temperature or other mental activities will be controlled by this. Now, second one is the dienes or olfactory lobe and the diencephalon. Diencephalon is mostly the consist of a thalamus and hypothalamus. They coordinate with the nerve, with the endocrine system and the nervous system. And mostly this hypothalamus, which is controlled by the pituitary gland or the master gland, which controls the all other gland, which help in the maintaining all the multiple functional centers such as cardiovascular, respiratory system, metabolism of the body will be controlled by this. Now the next portion is the midbrain mostly the which help in connecting the other two parts of the brain, that is the cerebrum of the forebrain and the cerebellum of the hindbrain. So now hindbrain is mostly help in the body posture and body mechanism, movement of our body, the lower portion of our body, which will be controlled by the cerebellum. Now pons varuli, which help in the control regulating our sleep cycle, control our sleep cycle, and also help in regulation of the pain. Any time if you get pain, say, or the sensation of pain, you get first signal will be by the cerebrum, and then finally it will receive to the brain will process and then forward it to the other parts of our body in order to respond. Now, next, medulla oblongata. It is mostly the lower portion, the descending portion of our body, like cardiovascular, respiratory, all the other things will be controlled by the lower portion of our body by the medulla oblongata, and also the body movement. So I hope along with this a reflex action which responds to the stimulus, and during any kind of emergency situation it will be help for us to respond, and during any emergency situation with the help of a coordinating system called an endocrine system, a, emergency hormone adrenaline is received, and through this hormone the body will coordinate and try to bring down the situation into a normal. During any emergency situation only it's going to help to release. I hope this was helpful, and there are few animated videos which I'm trying to make, which will be very soon, it will be posted in the in the channel, where as soon as it's available. So if you are new to my channel and you are really interested in my content or any positive suggestion if you want to give, please don't forget to drop your suggestion or anything on the comment box. It will be very helpful for me and for us too. So till then, take care. Very soon we are going to, mostly tomorrow, we are going to take another live session, which is a part two. That is the endocrine system. At the end of this video, all the description about and the link will be available to my channel. I hope this was very helpful. If you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. And if you like this video also, you can click on the like button. And the pdf, a complete pdf of this, I will be adding it into the description. You can later on check in the description and you can download it, a full pdf of the nervous system, till the till the nervous system, till the brain and the spinal cord. In the next video when we finish the part 2, in that endocrine system will be added. Okay. If you have any doubts, you can leave your doubt or any kind of question in the comment box so that immediately I can replay. This is a question and answer session. Easily you can check. If you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe. Just have a look.